What's up, guys and girls? I would like to welcome you back to another Team Zuby live stream. First of all, I want to wish you all a very happy new year. If this is my first time speaking to you directly this year, you haven't checked out any of the podcasts I've dropped so far, then firstly, I just want to wish you a very happy new year. Here we are right now in 2021. I hope that you are so far enjoying your 2-week trial of 2021. So far, it doesn't seem that different to the previous year. So I think what's actually happened is I think we're on December 40th of 2020 still. I don't think we've actually entered 2021 properly yet. That is my personal theory because it looks like we're still in the same situation and the energy is the same and the vibe is the same. But nonetheless, I hope we all crush it this year and I hope everybody is doing well. So before I jump right into the topic, I want to just explain how this is going to work kind of with this live stream and also what I plan to do throughout this year. So I'm going to just talk about the topic as usual. Normally in the past, I've tried to address questions as they're coming through in general, but now I've got my Patreon up and running. Firstly, I want to say massive thanks to everyone who has subscribed to my Patreon this week. We're almost up to 50 members already. If you guys want to subscribe to my Patreon, you can check it out. It is patreon.com/Zuby Music. I will just drop that in the chat right there. Patreon.com/Zuby Music. By joining that, you get access to the Team Zuby Inner Circle, which is a private Discord community where you can communicate with myself and everybody else directly, away from the noise of Twitter, away from the noise of Facebook, Instagram, whatever it is. It's an exclusive private community only for subscribers of Patreon. And you can join that from only $5. By supporting me, you'll also be directly supporting the podcast. You'll be supporting my music. I've got my new album, which is coming out. You'll be supporting my videos, live streams, everything that I do. Always remember, I'm 100% independent artist, 100% independent. I don't have a manager. I don't have some big agency. I don't have anyone just flooding me with money. Everything I do is fan-funded, fan-supported. So if you would like to support me this year on an ongoing basis, please check out the Patreon. There's 4 different tiers, which you can join depending on how much you want to support and what perks you want to get. But please go check that out, patreon.com/Zuby Music. I've got a few questions that have come. I'm going to stop headbutting the microphone with my hat. I've got a few questions that have come through from there. But if you want to drop a question live, you can leave a super chat and I will get to all the super chats as well. So firstly, big thanks to everyone who's just tuned in. Got a good number of people watching right now. So before I get into any of the questions, I want to sort of just recap the last couple of days because the last couple of days, I'm going to put this down a little so I can stop headbutting my mic. The last couple of days have been insane, guys. I mean, what is even going on in the world right now? I don't know what's going on in the world. I'm here in the UK trying to chill out, trying to handle my business, trying to mind my business. And there's just all of this craziness that is going on. So I don't know what day it was. Was it on Wednesday or was it on Thursday where they had this whole thing that went down in DC at the Capitol? And look, I think like a lot of protests, thousands of people were there to peacefully protest. I don't know exactly what the aim of it was. You know, people felt like the election had been stolen, all that. I'm not going to get into what I think maybe happened with all that. It's not really my remit and I haven't done the research. But there were not more than a handful of people. I think maybe 100, I don't know. It looked like maybe about 100 plus people who got rowdy, stormed the Capitol building, and were basically acting like fools. The woman who actually got shot, Ashley Babbitt, turns out she was actually one of my Twitter followers, which is sad and crazy, you know. RIP to her. It's very sad when anyone dies unnecessarily like that. And I can simultaneously have a lot of sympathy and compassion for that and also recognize that, you know, this is a situation that I just wish people wouldn't put themselves in. Regardless of where you are on the political aisle, a situation like that, you know, just, I don't know, getting involved in something like that, the sort of risk reward ratio, as far as I'm concerned, is just too risky, man. It's too risky. And it's very sad that a 35-year-old woman, you know, unnecessarily died in that. I think a couple of police officers also died as well, or at least one police officer. I think 4 or 5 people died in total. And it's just a waste of human life to me, you know. So that's the first thing I want to say. I'm saddened by stuff like that. similar to how I was saddened by a lot of the loss of life and just the wanton destruction and carnage which happened less than a year ago, going back to the summer last year in America with all the Black Lives Matter protests and, the Antifa stuff and the Chaz Chop autonomous zone and all that. Just a lot of unnecessary violence and destruction, looting and murdering. I think over 20 people died over that summer during those, protests/riots. And I don't know what's really come of it. I'm not seeing anything tangible that really came of it. And it's sad to me. And then following on from that, President Trump has been banned from social media in general. He's been kicked off of Twitter permanently. He's been kicked off of Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. I don't know. His Shopify site has been shut down. The president, the most powerful man in the world, has been censored by big tech. And I think this is a really, really disturbing and very dangerous precedent. This is something I've actually, I've talked about and been thinking about for a couple of years. I didn't necessarily know it was gonna hit the president of the USA, but I've been concerned and in opposition to this sort of big tech censorship for a long time. And I thought it would be good to do a live stream and just sort of talk about my own perspective on this. So there's a lot of different angles to come at this from. I think the first thing to say is that this is an extremely slippery slope, guys. It's an extremely slippery slope. I've been saying this for years. I mean, I've been on Twitter for 11 years. I remember, it wasn't that long ago where a lot of, right-wing figures got banned. Guys like Alex Jones, of course, Gavin McInnes, Laura Loomer, Milo Yiannopoulos, lots of the Proud Boys. A whole bunch of people have been kicked off of Twitter over the past couple of years. And because they always start with the people who are more on the edge and more on the fringes and who people don't always necessarily feel like comfortable defending, right? A lot of people feel like, oh, I don't want to defend Alex Jones. I don't want to defend Milo, etc., because they think that by standing up for basic freedom of speech and anti-censorship, that it means you're endorsing everything they're doing and they're saying and they believe in, etc., which it's not. But people don't understand that the walls always close in. Right? The walls always close in. So they'll start out with the people who are on the fringes, but there's always going to be someone on the fringes, right? So if the realm of political or social opinions is like a circle or even just like a line, every time the cliff moves in, right? There's always someone who's going to be on the edge of the cliff, right? You get rid of that person, and now, okay, this person's next in line, and then that person falls, and this person's next in line. And if you are just a basic standard conservative or libertarian, especially, there have been people on the left side of the spectrum who have been deplatformed as well. You've had some so-called gender critical feminists. You've had, women like Meghan Murphy, Posey Parker, who have been deplatformed for questioning some stuff around the whole transgender craze and transgender movement and for stating the realities of biological sex. You've seen them come for all kinds of people. And one thing that's really struck me with this, and which is really saddening me in a way, it's quite disheartening, is just to see how few people actually have principles, right? A lot of people just don't have solid principles, right? They will just go with the path of least resistance, hyper-partisanship, whatever aligns with their team or their side, and they don't have any sort of solid principles that they're using and that they're standing on and that they're willing to defend regardless of whether or not they agree with or disagree with or like or dislike the person, right? And Trump has broken a lot of people's brains over the past 5 years. So some people just have such a strong visceral reaction and negative response and hatred of Trump that they will, anything that hurts him or supports their cause, they will be on board with, even if it sets a very, very dangerous precedent, even if it goes against basic things like freedom of speech, anti-censorship, fair competition, etc. They don't care as long as they get their way, right? And this is a disturbing chunk of humanity, right? This is millions upon millions of people who think this way. All they think is, I don't like Trump, orange man bad, Trump offends me, I want him gone, right? I want him kicked off of Twitter. I want his accounts taken away. I want this person's account deleted. I don't want this person to be able to speak, so on and so forth. And then people try to flip it on you by suddenly pretending to be libertarians or something and going, oh, well, it's a private company. They can do what they want. So let me address that. Let me address that as someone who is actually fairly libertarian leaning. I'm not a pure libertarian. I'm not like an anarcho-capitalist, but I'm pretty libertarian leaning. And I generally agree with the whole, private company argument. But this has a lot of rebuttals. Firstly, even if a private company, even if something is, firstly, I mean, these companies are, we can have a whole debate about whether these are truly private companies. That'll come up. But even if a company is a private company, I mean, these are big publicly traded global conglomerates, really. But even if a company is a private company, it doesn't mean that you cannot oppose their behavior, right? So even if a private company, I agree generally that a private company has a right to set their own rules and not serve somebody if they violate their terms or if they don't want to serve them, etc. But that doesn't mean that people can't criticize it, right? That doesn't mean people can't criticize it. If I go to a nightclub and they're like, hey, we don't like, we don't like your face or we don't like the way you're dressed. You can't come in here dressed like this, then I believe they have a right to deny me entrance on whatever basis they want. I don't need to think it's just, and I can complain about it. I can complain about it if I want, right? I still have a right to complain. It's not me saying they don't have a right to do that, but you still have a right to complain. So people who are just like, oh, shut up, you shouldn't be complaining about it. Firstly, that's stupid. Secondly, if private companies can do whatever they want, then why the heck are millions of businesses around the UK, around the USA, around the world shut down, right? The government has shut down businesses locally, nationally, for months on end just over the past year. So if private companies can do what they want, why are they not allowed to open? Why is the barbershop closed? Why is the clothing store closed? Why can't people open their shops which are selling ice cream? Why can't people open up the gyms? Why are restaurants shut down, right? If you're going to say that private companies can do what they want, I generally agree with you, but it's so hypocritical to be saying this whilst you've got all of these private companies being forced to shut down, right? It's such a disingenuous argument. And these people don't care about private property rights. They don't care about private companies. They're just trying to be smart and use an argument that a conservative or libertarian might generally make in other situations. Next up, this is not really, then there's the whole question about, are these even private companies in the state? Look at what's going on now. When you're talking about like the conglomerate of, let's say, the Silicon Valleys, right? Twitter, Facebook, Google, which owns YouTube, the whole Facebook, all the Facebook organizations, right? Including Instagram, WhatsApp, etc., right? Apple, Google. Are these, firstly, these companies are all in bed together. And there is a very, very solid argument to make that they virtually have a monopoly on information. Look, they just deplatformed, they just coordinated to deplatform the president of the USA from all of these platforms simultaneously on one day. Don't give me your private company bullcrap. That is not a private company move. They are exerting their power in doing what is politically expedient. We all know all these companies are super left-wing. We already know that, okay? Which is fine in itself, right? I don't really care if a company is run by liberals or conservatives or people in the middle or whatever, as long as they are fair, as long as they apply their rules fairly. And that brings me to my next point. If you go on Twitter and other social media platforms, you will find people calling for and inciting violence, even blue check marks on Twitter. We saw this all of last year. We saw people inciting violence, encouraging people to destroy public property, encouraging looting, encouraging rioting. We saw all of this last year, right? Some of us don't have a 3-second memory. So again, it's very rich for the people who have been doing that and advocating it for it and to supporting it to start talking about the president inciting violence. Now, when I first heard about, I didn't really follow all the stuff that was happening at the Capitol so much, but I assumed when I heard about the suspension of Trump, I thought, oh wow, okay, he really must have said something messed up. He really must have said something messed up, because people were saying, I just kept seeing people parroting, he incited violence, he called for violence, he incited violence. So I was like, okay, I will look into this, but if that's what he actually did, if he legitimately was calling for violence, then that's messed up. He shouldn't be doing that. That's super irresponsible. And then it's actually there. I actually went on Twitter to read the official statement about the permanent suspension of Donald Trump. And okay, let me read what it says right here. Let me read what it says right here. This is the official statement. This is the official statement from Twitter, and this quotes his tweets. These are the two tweets that he got. So these are the official tweets. Oh wow, we got 500 people tuned in. Thank you. These are the official tweets that he got banned for. Okay, so I'm reading directly off of the Twitter blog. It says on January 8th, 2021, President Donald J. Trump tweeted, "The 75 million great American patriots who voted for me, America first, and make America great again, will have a giant voice long into the future. They will not be disrespected or treated unfairly in any way, shape, or form." Okay, I didn't hear a call for violence there. The next tweet, they wrote, shortly thereafter, the president tweeted, "To all those who have asked, I will not be going to the inauguration on January 20th. Did you hear a call for violence there? I did not hear a call for violence there. So those are the two tweets that resulted in his permanent suspension. 88 million followers gone, president of the USA, most powerful man in the world, censored by Twitter for those tweets, which led to the knockdown effect of him being kicked off of all the other platforms. Now, I didn't hear a call for violence there. If I just read those tweets, there's nothing, I'm not thinking, okay, wow, the president is telling me to go out there and grab my weapon and swarm the Capitol building. Like, let me read those one more time. The 75 million great American patriots who voted for me, America first, and make America great again, will have a giant voice long into the future. They will not be disrespected or treated unfairly in any way, shape, or form. Now, I could see how someone could say that they don't like they don't like the tone of that, or they think that it's not presidential and it's not like statesmanlike and, he should just be a better sport. I can totally understand that argument. But inciting violence, I don't read anything violent there. The second tweet, to all those who have asked, I will not be going to the inauguration on January 20th. Again, people can say that he's being a sore loser. He's being a sore loser, totally, fair enough. But how is that an incitement to violence? I will not be going to the inauguration on January 20th. How is that a call for violence? I don't understand. And then Twitter has done some, they've done some strange, there's a place where it says assessment, and they've done some really weird mental gymnastics to suggest that this is glorification of violence, which aims to prevent, and they wrote that this could inspire others to replicate violent acts. They determined that these tweets were highly likely to encourage and inspire people to replicate the criminal acts that took place at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th, 2021. And then they've got some further explanation. I mean, you can go on Twitter and see their full explanation, but I was bewildered when I read that, because I was there thinking like, man, like what did he write? I mean, if you've seen some of Trump's tweets, you would know that he has written stuff that's more egregious than that. No question that Trump has tweeted things that are more egregious than those two tweets, right? He's tweeted some stuff where, even I, as someone who's got, who's got some more sympathetic to him than a lot of people are, because I think, despite his flaws, I think his strengths outweigh them for the most part. I think he's made some serious errors over the past year or so. But yeah, I mean, a permanent suspension. You have to remember that on Twitter, you have the what's the name of the sort of supreme leader of Iran? You have the supreme leader of Iran. I can't even remember his name right now, where he has literally called for the he's described Israel as something like a malignant tumor, and saying that Israel needs to be exterminated. Right? He's called for the complete destruction and annihilation of Israel. That tweet is still up. You have accounts from the CCP in China where they're talking about how well they're treating the Uyghur people. Like anyone who's paying attention to what's going on in China, I mean, they're aware that they've put literally millions of Uyghur Muslims in basically concentration camps, like re-education camps, and they've sterilized the women and committing all sorts of horrific human rights violations. And they have an account on Twitter, and they're just tweeting propaganda all day long about how happy the Uyghurs are. And it's mind-blowing. Like, there are people who constantly, are advocating and promoting violence. There are people doxing people on that platform and so on and so forth. And then the audacity is that, this firstly happened. And then, of course, a lot of people started jumping ship to Parlay, or Parler as people call it. It's actually Parlay. And then as of this morning, UK time, Amazon web hosting, AWS, they actually host Parlay. And they decided to cut ties with basically no warning, which has taken the entire website offline. So the best Twitter competitor that is out there has now also been taken offline. So again, to anyone who's talking about the, free market, private company thing, like, this is not a free market. These are anti-competitive practices. Right? It's not a free market when I'm using my billions and my influence to crush all of my competitors when people try to move to them. And then I'm using my buddies over at Apple and Google to deplatform apps from the Play Store. And then I'm calling on Amazon to literally take the servers off for my competitors. I mean, this is really disturbing, guys. This is a really, really bad precedent. As someone who simply has principles, I support free speech for everybody. There are people out there who I think have bad, terrible views on certain things, right? There are people who I vehemently disagree with out there, but I'm not calling for them to be deplatformed. I'm not trying to have their voices taken away. I'm certainly not trying to have their income or their livelihood or their well-being taken away. And what we're dealing with here is really, really disturbing. And so many people think that this does not end with Trump. I don't think it should have hit Trump like that. Because again, those tweets are not an incitement to violence. Those tweets are not a call to violence. I don't know how many people who are parroting that have actually read those tweets. I'd love for someone to explain to me how that's a direct call for violence or a threat of violence. To me, it's not. It's not. And this also just shows the bias of the moderation policies, because this is where you actually need true ideological diversity. Because if you have a moderation team at a website or a social media platform and they're all on one side of the political spectrum, or virtually all on one side, then they're going to read things different ways, right? They might, maybe someone who's like a super lefty and who hates Trump reads those tweets and they're like, oh my gosh, he's calling for violence. Like, I read those and my brain doesn't even go there. My brain doesn't even go there at all. It's not that dissimilar to when I tweeted "Okay, dude" last year and I got deplatformed for temporarily because they didn't really explain it, but they said that it was hateful conduct. Right? Someone jumped on Twitter and said that they sleep with more women than me, and I said, "Okay, dude," that was it. I got deplatformed from Twitter for that, and apparently, I think this is because apparently the person who did this identifies as transgender, and by me saying "dude," that was some sort of aggression upon me, like misgendering. Like, what? I didn't even know who I was talking to. Someone bragging about how many women they sleep with is that's a pretty dude-ish thing to do, right? That's typically not what you expect from a woman, right? And dude is gender neutral anyway, right? But Twitter, the mods there I even challenged it, and they deemed that was hateful conduct, right? As if that's on the same level as me. I don't know, someone calling a black person the N-word, or someone calling a gay person a homophobic slur or something. And it's just like, what is going on here, man? Like, Silicon Valley needs to, man, they need to get some centrists or some conservatives, some libertarians in there and balance things out, dude. Because I don't even, they're just on the warpath right now. They're on the warpath right now, and people need to be worried because this is a huge step backwards, right? If you live in a so-called free country, like, the internet has democratized a lot of things. And one of the great things about social media is everyone has a voice. People have a platform, whether you like them, you dislike them, you agree with them, you disagree with them. If they can silence the US president and they can use a coordinated attack to deplatform him from more than 5 different platforms on the same day, then what do you think they can do to you? What do you think they can do to me? Like, this is scary. We know the power of information. You could easily argue that, say Google, Amazon, Apple, and Facebook, let's say those 4 companies combined certainly are more powerful than any government. They're more powerful than any government in the world, right? Because not every war is fought with guns and tanks and missiles and battleships, right? Information warfare is so powerful. Information is so powerful. That's why the media is so powerful. And the internet and social media is like the media. It's like the mainstream media on steroids, to use that terminology, right? And it's crazy because you don't even need to violate their policies. They can just one day decide, you know what, we don't like you, and you're gone. And they'll just say that they won't bother to explain, hateful conduct, or he incited violence or whatever. And people won't bother. If people don't like you, they'll just be like, oh, well, it was hate speech, right? People just use that term as a catch-all thing. Oh, whatever. It wasn't free speech. It was hate speech. And it's just like, guys, oh, it's such a dangerous precedent. And it's so hard to get this through to certain people. Like I don't know if they just don't understand the principle, or if they're just being purposely obtuse or stupid. I don't know, but I am virtually a free speech absolutist. Does not mean that I agree with everything that comes out of everybody's mouth. Obviously, but they have a right to say it, because everything can potentially offend someone, right? If I express my views, my social views, my religious views, my political views, my views on anything, there's the potential that there's someone out there who finds it upsetting or offensive. And then someone else talks and they could say something that I find upsetting or offensive, but there is a right to free speech. There is no right not to be offended. There's no right not to be offended. And the more people you're talking to, the bigger the probability you're going to offend somebody. Every time I put out a tweet, every time I put out a post, etc., I have such a big audience now that almost always somebody is offended. Like if I say anything remotely spicy, someone is going to be offended, even if it's a joke. If a comedian is telling a joke on stage to 20,000 people, or there's 1 million people watching it at home, guaranteed every single joke is going to offend somebody. Every single joke is going to offend somebody, but, grow a pair, right? Like, we're adults. We're not children. And I'm tired of adults being treated like children with everything from this Rona response to all these deplatforming, and they keep using words like safety, harm, violence, trauma. They're just manipulating language to make everything sound scary, right? Harm. There's no harm from words. Words, look, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words may never hurt me. We learn this stuff as children. I don't know if children still learn this these days, but people have just become so emotionally fragile that they can't deal with any person or anything that goes against their worldview or their ideology. And it's so lame. Honestly, it's so lame. It's just like, dude, just grow up. Grow up. The world is going to offend you. People are going to offend you. Not everything goes your way. Not everybody agrees with you. There's 7.3 billion people on this planet. You can't expect them all to agree on everything. Even on contentious issues, even on the most like impassioned topics, people have different views. How many different religions are there in the world? How many different political views are there in the world? How many different views of culture, society, language, sexuality, male-female relationships, everything? Like, people are different, man. And it's amazing, on one hand, people be talking diversity, and then on the other, like when they encounter some true diversity, they don't know what to do. They don't know what to do, and yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. What I'm going to do now, though, is I'm going to get to some questions. Like I said, if you guys want me to answer your questions, please leave a super chat. If you leave a super chat, I will get to your question and give you a shout out. First of all, I'm going to address a couple that came through via my Patreon. If you want to subscribe on Patreon, I would love to have you on board. You'll also get access to the Team Zuby Inner Circle on Discord. It's an exclusive community only for my direct supporters on Patreon. So go check it out. You can sign up. You can become a supporter from just $2 a month. And for $5 a month, you can join the Discord chat. And you get a whole bunch of other benefits. You can get discounts on all my merchandise. You'll get updates on my new album, all of that stuff before everybody else. But let me have a look on Patreon and let me answer some questions that have come through on here. Okay, so this is a question from Michael. So Michael wrote, "It's my observation that the actual historic event that occurred last week did not happen in Washington, D.C. It happened in California. I believe it's a real turning point with potentially enormous implications for the entire world. I would like to hear your opinion." I think that's pretty much what I've been talking about for the past half hour. I agree with you. Another thing I haven't even brought up is when it comes to the response to these things, people forget that the USA is not the only country in the world, man, right? Most Twitter users are not in the USA. Most Facebook users are not in the USA. Most users of the internet are not in the USA. So it's kind of crazy how a couple, some people idiotically storming the Capitol in Washington, D.C. last week has now led to me, Zuby, a rapper and a podcaster here in the UK. I've lost 19,000 Twitter followers since Thursday. 19,000 followers. It took me 9 years to reach 19,000 followers. I've just lost that in the past 4 days, right? Like, why is this stuff impacting me? Why am I worried about getting deplatformed? I shouldn't have to worry about this. I follow the rules. Like, I'm not breaking any guidelines. I'm not inciting any violence or any hate. Quite the opposite. I'm always consistently standing against this and trying to keep people sane and sensible. I'm constantly trying to help people out. But this is what it does. The walls just close in. And unless people stand up on the basic principle, even for people they may not agree with or, they may feel they dislike, then, man, it's a slippery slope. They're always gonna get to you eventually. Next question here is from Edwin Chang. He wrote, will you be moving to another social media platform? So I am on Parler. Like I said, they've shut it down as of this morning. It will come back, I'm sure, once they get a server. I've got 120,000 followers on there. I now can't reach them because they've been kicked off. I have also got accounts on Gab and on Minds. On everything, I'm Zuby Music. I am also on the standard platforms. Of course, I'm here on YouTube. I'm also on Odyssey, which is another video platform. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. So I'm all over the internet, guys. Of course, you can always find me on zubymusic.com. That's my main website. But I'm on all these platforms, right? And people are like, oh, you're going to delete your Twitter account? I'm like, no, I've still got over 300,000 followers. I'm not going to just delete my account because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. I haven't violated the rules. I've been on the platform for 11 years. It's part of how I run my business. It's part of how so many of you guys know me. I'm not going to delete my account unless absolutely necessary, right? But at the same time, I would encourage you guys to please, subscribe to my Patreon, right? Make a donation, buy some merchandise, support what I'm doing, because at this times like this, like all the time, look, if you want, people need to support the people who they appreciate. Right. And I'm not just saying this to enrich myself. I'm not just saying this for myself. I'm saying this for everybody. If there is a commentator, a YouTuber, a musician, an artist, somebody out there who you support and you like what they're doing, please support them. Support them financially. It's great, having tweets and likes and retweets and all that, but support what they're doing financially. Right. Support them, buy a T-shirt, buy a CD, buy a book, support to their page, subscribe to their Patreon, leave a donation. Right. Because that is how people can keep going. Because as we know, the game is rigged. It's not totally an equal playing field. So if you want to allow the people doing what you love and who are speaking up for you to be able to continue to, you have to make sure that they can continue to survive and thrive. That's the reality of it. The next question is from Andrea. Andrea wrote, with the subsequent banning of the current U.S. sitting president and additional conservative accounts, what suggestions do you have for people like us to stand up and be heard? So yeah, I sort of answered that one right there, right? So number one, use your own voice, even if it's just in a small way, in the workplace, at home, talking to people, right? Just have your principles and don't be afraid to stand up for your principles. Be willing to have discussions. I know it seems hyper polarized now, and I know on Twitter and platforms like that, it can seem like everybody is crazy, but most people are sane. Most people are sensible. Most people are willing to have a conversation. So have these conversations with people, because people have blind spots. And so you might have a friend who's, they hate Trump or whatever. And so they're kind of happy about the fact that he's been kicked off of Twitter. But talk to them about, well, what do you think about the precedent that this sets, right? Is this going to end with Trump? Have the whole private company argument with them, right? Are they consistent with it? Are they supporting lockdowns? If they're supporting lockdowns, they're not being consistent. If they think that people should be forced to do things that violate their, let's say their religious beliefs or something, they're not being consistent, right? Are they only applying this in this case because it is politically expedient to them, right? Have these conversations. Do they think that there should be boundaries around free speech? You don't always need to agree or disagree with it. You don't always need to agree with everybody, but at least you can understand the different perspectives there. So I recommend, people let's take a little sip of water. I'm recording my album tomorrow, so I should save my voice a little bit. Make sure it sounds all buttery smooth, all buttery smooth. Yeah, what was I just saying? Slightly lost. So yeah, cowardice. People can't be cowards. People can't be cowards. You've got to be willing to use your voice, and doesn't need to be aggressive. I would never recommend any kind of aggression or violence. Of course not, right? But just stand up for what you believe in. So many people are afraid to stand up for what they believe in, even if it's just sort of standard basic principles. Don't be afraid to voice that. And there's a lot of people with you. There's millions of people with you. So next question is from Matt Sanders. Matt wrote, will the addition of pronouns and the BLM hashtag to your Twitter bio be enough to save your account from the axe? As someone who earns good money off the platform and has worked incredibly hard on building up his following, just how concerned are you about the impact all this will have on entrepreneurs like yourself if other big tech platforms continue with these actions? For example, YouTube taking down OK Dude because they don't like the lyrics. Look, for myself personally, look, I'm cautious, but I'm not mega worried for myself. I think, look, if they start, really, really messing with or deplatforming or censoring people like me, then the whole world is in trouble. The whole world is in trouble. I'm certainly not any kind of political extremist or radical. I'm not even hyper political. Politics is not my main thing at all. I'm a musician. I'm a podcaster. I'm a content creator. I'm an author. I'm a coach, right? That's how I actually earn money, right? I don't earn money from politics. I just commentate here and there on things that I find interesting in society and in culture, like I'm doing right now, because this is important and it has implications. You have to understand, even with me being a musician, with me being a rapper, free speech is the bedrock of that. There's no hip hop without free speech, right? And it doesn't mean I need to agree with all hip hop or rap music, but hip hop, you can say whatever the heck you want, as offensive as you want, as flagrant as you want. That's the genre. That's music. Imagine being a rapper and supporting suppression of speech. What? Are you crazy? No, I'm super pro freedom of speech because I understand the alternative. The thing with freedom is messy. Freedom is always going to be messy. Again, we're living in this time where people are advocating for lockdowns, saying that if you don't support lockdowns, that you're going to kill people, right? People are using all this hyperbole. And it's no, I'm pro freedom. Freedom. Make your own choices. Weigh up the risks. Make your own decisions. You run a business. Do you want to keep your business open? Cool, keep it open. Do you want to have people socially distance, wear masks? Cool, you can put in those policies. Again, private business, right? You can do what you want there. But for the government to say, no, you cannot run your business. You cannot leave your house. You cannot go to church. You cannot go to the gym. You cannot see your friends. You cannot see your family. We're going to have a problem. No, I have a problem with that. I have a problem with that. Not because I want the virus to run roughshod through the entire population. Obviously not. Nobody wants that. But people can make decisions on an individual basis. If you are terrified of this virus, there's no reason, assuming you have the income, you can stay in your house and not leave your house again for the next 5 years. I don't care. I don't recommend it. It's not healthy, but you could do that. If you are so scared of the virus that you don't ever want to go outside again, you don't want to have any human contact, you can do that. You can stay home. No one has ever explained to me why I need to stay home because if I go outside, I could give you a virus that I don't have if you also choose to go outside and interact. What? It's not logical. Right? And it's a massive, it's a curb stomp on basic civil liberties and basic freedoms. And there's a way to balance these things out with a holistic approach rather than just being so narrow-minded and myopic and not understanding the damage and destruction that is being done by these ongoing lockdowns. Right? Okay, I've got like I say, guys, if you want me to answer any questions, just drop a super chat. I think I've done my major rant of the day. I still need to save my voice. I've seen a super chat has come up here from MP. He sends $5. Thank you very much, man. He wrote, officer who died had a stroke, not attacked at the Capitol as first reported. I deactivated my Twitter account. I will not take part empowering them. That's fair enough, man. It looks like thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions. I don't know how many people have deleted their Twitter accounts. But like I said, it's just sad that it's come to this, And look, there's more to life than Twitter. Of course, there's more to life than Twitter. But this is a platform where people congregate and socialize, and where people also do business and they make connections, etc. So it's a shame that this is happening and that the alternatives are being shut down. That's an anti-competitive practice. It's not fair. It's not honest, and yeah, it's just not good. This is just everything's just very knee jerk right now, isn't it? Like all these governments, these companies, everything's just knee jerk, right? They're not thinking things through. They're not thinking things through. They're just reacting to stuff. It's like something happens. Oh, there's a spike in cases. Oh, just shut everything down. Just don't know. Just lock down, right? They're not thinking, okay, well, let's weigh this up. Let's look at this properly. What are the economic ramifications? What are the effects on people's physical, mental health if we do this, if we shut the gyms and we shut churches and we stop them seeing their families? How's that going to affect suicides? How's that going to affect depression rates? How's that going to affect people's finances, their jobs? How much debt is that going to create for the future generations, our unborn children or children who are alive right now? They're not thinking this stuff through. They're just not thinking stuff through. And it's very, very frustrating. Yo, I'm a rapper. Why are people like looking to me as the sane voice? Not that a rapper can't be sane, but like, why am I making more sense than the governors and the mayors and the prime ministers? Why? What's going on? What is going on? Why are there people like just people on Twitter? There's TV presenters who there are personal trainers who have a more reasonable approach to this thing than the government do. These people aren't any smarter than you, man. I've always said it, man. These people are not any smarter than you. They've just got the power. They've just got the power. And the sad thing is most sane people don't want to be politicians because, they're busy doing other things, right? They're running businesses. They're doing things that have a better reward risk ratio. So the people you get are always people who it's typically going to be people who have some degree of, wanting to control others and wanting to have power, wanting to have that power. And yeah, we're just seeing how that plays out. This whole situation's been a gift to them. Just got another super chat has just come through. Let me find this. It's a little bit tricky to. Oh, okay, there we go. Someone wrote. Okay, this is from Norn Iron John. Sends 10 Canadian dollars. Thank you very much. Appreciated. As someone looking at this from the outside, how could anyone vote for Biden? Do they not know his history? Look, people voted for Biden largely because they dislike Trump so much. It really comes down to that. The U.S. election was a referendum on Trump, right? It wasn't a referendum on Biden. It was a referendum on Trump. It was like, do people want? Trump is so polarizing. We all know that, right? Whether you like him or loathe him, the guy is polarizing. It's quite hard to find people who are nuanced and in the middle on him. People tend to have like a really visceral reaction to him. I think I'm more pro-Trump than I am anti-Trump. Maybe one day I'll make a video explaining that. But it's hard to find someone who's like not emotionally invested in the guy. He just has that kind of personality and character where there's that cult of personality and it cuts both ways. Some people absolutely love him and some people just cannot stand him. They don't even care about the policies. They don't really care about what he's done. They don't really care about like what the party stands for, what the laws are going to. They just don't like him. You could give them a list of 20 great things that he's done. They don't care. They're just like, yeah, but I don't like him. I don't like him. I think that's a hyper emotional and rather immature response personally. But everybody thinks in different ways. Everybody votes in different ways. People have different personalities. People put the things they consider important or unimportant on different places on the totem pole. I know what I personally feel. And hey, it is what it is. I'm not even an American. Like I don't vote. Biden is not my president. Trump was not my president. I'm not American, right? I'm just out here from a distance, seeing what I see, commentating on some of the things that I see, and also explaining how some of it does have an impact outside the U.S. A lot of times people wonder why people outside the USA care about what's going on in the USA. And it's because it's the biggest country in the Western world. It's the biggest country in the free world, right? You got China and India, over 1 billion people each. And then population-wise, next up, you've got the USA, 330 million people. It's the biggest country in the Western world by a long shot too. not just the Western, not just the English speaking world, but the Western world as a whole. So that's why people care, because what happens in the USA politically, culturally, socially, it does have an impact and ramifications on people around the world. So that's why a lot of people care. I'm gonna need to take some vocal zone after this to make sure my voice stays up. Okay, we got another super chat. Got a couple more super chats coming through. Like I said, guys, if you want to support the channel and you want to support the podcast, please leave a super chat. If you want to support on an ongoing basis, go check me out on Patreon, patreon.com/Zuby Music. Make sure you join. If you join this month as well, you'll also get a signed copy of my Zubstep EP. I'm going to be sending those out to people. If you pay for a year up front, I'll be sending out a signed copy of my CD to you as well. So, and you're also going to get you'll get access to the Discord community. You'll get perks. Just go to patreon.com/Zuby Music and you will see what the different options are. But yeah, please check it out if you enjoy my work. So we got a super chat that's come through from where's this one gone? Where's this gone? Okay, there's one here. There's another one from Non-Iron John. Another $10. He's only polarizing because of your media's denigration of him for the last 5 years. Yeah. Look, man, I've talked about the media a lot, man. Look, I think he's polarizing beyond that. I think he's just that personality type. He was polarizing even before he became president, but as president, the personality cuts both ways. What I consider funny, some people consider disgraceful. What some people consider, a meme, other people consider unpresidential. What some people consider just a general statement, braggadocious. Other people consider it a flipping incitement to violence. So I don't know, man. We sort of live in alternate realities as human beings, and it's sometimes hard to know what the objective reality is. But yeah, the media obviously plays a massive role in shaping public opinion. We've got another super chat here. This one is from Brian Hernandez, sends $5. Thank you very much, Brian. I appreciate it. He wrote, "When will this charade end? When will those in power have their fill with this COVID exaggeration?" If you want my honest opinion, I think this, look, if the whole population was like me, this would have ended like 7 months ago. This would have ended 7 months ago if more people were like me. But look, I think that this ends, honestly, I think there's sort of two ways out of this thing. There's the, just do everything the government says and, hopefully get as many people as need to be vaccinated, and hopefully then they relent and, but that's really up to them. That's playing by, like, I don't know. Depends on how sinister you think the government is. The other way out of this is mass civil disobedience. That's the other way out of this, right? Everybody just being like, you know what? I've had enough. I'm done. I'm opening my gym. I'm opening my restaurant. I'm going to work. I'm going outside. I'm going to go see my friends. If millions of people all did that, it's over in a day. It's done. That would be all it takes, right? That's realistically, that would end it. Because once they've lost trust and they've lost obedience, then look, they're not going to roll out the army or something and put tanks on the street to stop people going to get a haircut or to stop them going. Then they're not going to do that, right? We don't actually live in like a legitimately fascistic country, so that's never going to happen. So those are the sort of two ways out, right? I will not say which one I prefer, but that's the reality of it. That those are the two ways out. But thank you for your super chat. I appreciate it. Okay, we've got one from Keith. He sends £48.99. Thank you very much. That's really generous of you, Keith. I appreciate that. Keith wrote, "I'm aligned with your position very closely. I'm a lawyer, but also a songwriter, and I have some material which I would love to share with you for Zuby Music." Yeah, man. I mean, I've got everything I need for my current album, but you can always send me music, man. Zuby@zubymusic.com is my email address. Zuby@zubymusic.com. So if you want to send me anything, just send it there, and I will check it out, and I will have a listen. And thank you very much, Keith. That's a really generous donation. I massively appreciate that. Thank you very much. Thank you to everybody who has dropped a super chat. And again, big thanks to everyone who has subscribed to the Patreon. Patreon.com/Zuby Music if you want to check that out. Once again, if you enjoy the work, if you enjoy what I do, if you want to help support the new album, you want to help me make more music videos, you want to help me do more cool stuff, not just online, but around the world when stuff goes back to normal, Please support me on Patreon. Got a whole bunch of episodes of the Real Talk with Zuby podcast coming out. I've already dropped 2 this year and going to have, lots of them coming out. dozens of them coming out this year. We just got another super chat here. Let me hop in on this one. This is from MP, sends $5. Agreeing with silencing those you disagree with is agreeing to be silenced yourself. SM just did a show of power, more powerful than the US president. Exactly. Agreeing with silencing those you disagree with is agreeing to being silenced yourself. That's it, right? Because people have to understand, I often say that when it comes to, politics or it's kind of like, just social stuff in general, you don't want to bring weapons to the party that you are not willing to have used against you. Right? I'll say that one more time. You don't want to bring weapons to the party that you are not willing to have used against you. Okay? So, look, as we know in politics, sometimes you sleep on your left, sometimes you'll sleep on the right. If you live in the UK, sometimes Labour are in power, sometimes the Conservatives are in power. If you live in the USA, sometimes the Republicans are in power, sometimes the Democrats are in power. It switches back and forth. So if there's going to be a precedent for something, right? If there's going to be a tactic or a weapon or something that is used, people have to be prepared that that could be flipped and used against them in the future. So if you support deplatforming, if you support censorship, you have to understand that that can come back to bite you, right? You could fall on that same sword that you think you've slayed the dragon with that sword, and then you die by that same sword, because now people can turn that against you. And when your opponent is in power and they have the opportunity, they can then censor you. They can then silence you. If you advocate for violence when it fits your political views, then when someone else has a different view, they'll feel justified to use violence, maybe violence against you, to get across their political view, because you've allowed that, you've accepted it, you've said that it's okay. Because you always have to remember in this world, like, everybody thinks they're right. Everybody thinks they're right. Everybody who believes in God thinks that they're right. Everybody who is an atheist thinks they're right. Everybody who is a Christian thinks they're right. Everybody who is a Muslim thinks they're right. Everybody who's a Buddhist thinks they're right. Everybody who's a Hindu thinks they're right. Everyone who's a Jew thinks they are right. Everyone who's conservative thinks they're right. Everyone who's libertarian thinks they're right. Everyone who's liberal or leftist or socialist, everybody thinks that they are right. If you didn't think you're right, you would change your view, wouldn't you? Right? This is just the reality of the world, right? It's just the reality of the world. Everybody thinks that they are right. So we need to have a society and a culture and a system where we can all get along with each other. With all this diversity of views and opinions and ideologies and religions and interests, we can all still get on with each other. And for that to happen, we have to have principles. We have to support freedom of speech. We have to allow people the potential to step on each other's toes, the potential to offend each other, the potential to have discussions, to have debates, because that's the only way around it, right? There's only 3 ways to resolve any problem: discussion, separation, violence. That's it. Individual level, group level, country level, those are the only 3 ways that you can solve a conflict. You can talk it out, you can decide to just totally segregate and stay away from each other, or you can solve it, you can come to blows, right? You can come to blows, you can come to gunshots, you can come to violence. Those are the only 3 ways. So when discussion breaks down, I get nervous, right? When people don't want to talk, I get nervous. When people are getting deplatformed, I get nervous. When people are getting censored, I get nervous, because you're forcing people. It's like, those people still have their views and they still want to get their viewpoints out and they still want to be part of the conversation, but you force them out of it, right? So you're now going for that segregation option. But if they're not happy with that, that's how people can actually get radicalized, right? People are saying, oh, by having certain people on social media, that's radical. I'm like, no, you're radicalizing people through the deplatforming, through the censorship, because then they just run off to a little dark corner and they find the people who embrace them. And those people might be legitimate radicals or legitimate extremists. So that's a big reason as well why I do not support deplatforming and censorship. I also don't think there should ever be permanent deplatformings. I mean, if you think of it, right? Like, you don't even, like, someone could literally murder somebody and get 20 years in prison. And after the 20 years in prison, they can go and create like a Twitter account, a Facebook account or whatever, right? So the punishment for a literal murderer or a literal like rapist or something is less harsh than for someone who, calls a trans person by the gender they don't want to be called, by a pronoun they don't like, or by someone who has a deeply upsetting political opinion or something, or a bad joke that they decide to voice, right? You get a worse punishment for upsetting the wrong person on Twitter than, as far as social media goes, right? Like, obviously you're not going to prison, but think about that for a second, right? You can murder someone or rape someone and you can still have a Twitter account. But if you misgender someone, if you call someone by a pronoun that they don't like, then you can be permanently banned. That means even in 20 years' time, I don't think Twitter will be around in 20 years' time, but if it were, you still can't make an account. And that is insane. That is insane, right? The permanent, I don't know why they call it suspension, because it's just a temporary. But yeah, I don't know, man. This is where we are. But yeah, I'm going to be wrapping this up in a couple of minutes. Thank you guys for tuning in. I think this might be the most people I've ever had tuned in on a YouTube only live stream. So thank you very much for that. I'm going to plug it one more time, patreon.com/Zuby Music. I would love for some of you to join after this conversation is over. I'm going to just post it in the chat one more time, because I would love to have you guys join there. That's really where I'm going to be building up the community. Join the Discord. The more, the merrier. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'll be sharing some snippets from the new album and everything once that is in motion, because I start recording tomorrow. We got a super chat from Andy. Andy Worsley sends £4.99. Thank you. He wrote, Zuby, a little off topic, but I'd love a hard copy of your fitness book. Even PTs need a little motivation sometimes. Any left or any more coming? Yeah, I've still got copies, man. If you go to teamzuby.com, you can get it right on there, man. Teamzuby.com. Boom. Just go there, order a paperback. We'll get it shipped out to you this week. Simple as that. And thank you for the super chat, Andy. I appreciate it. We got one more that's come through here. Someone's okay. I've seen a couple people asking about Patreon. Look, if you're hesitant to use Patreon, then I am also on Locals, teamzuby.locals.com. You can also support me on Locals as well. I've personally had no problems with Patreon at all. But if you're hesitant about that, you can also support me on Locals as well. I am on Locals as well. Someone's asked, is Patreon censored? No, Patreon's never censored me. So there we go. Thanks, Chris. He's just sent $1. Thank you very much. No comment there, but I appreciate it. And this is from Trippy Liberty, sends $5. Not sure why even otherwise logical people lack your foresight. Brainwashing, ego investment, lack of thought really invested, all the above maybe. Yeah, man, I didn't used to think that the way I thought was that unique. It's weird. Like, I've always thought that, and I still think that a lot of the things that I say I feel like a lot of it is common sense. I honestly feel like a lot of what I say is common sense. I feel like it's stuff that should be fairly obvious for people who can understand like second and third order effects. But I think a lot of people can't. A lot of people can only see like the first order effect, right? They can't see how they just see that the one step. They don't see, okay, how does this affect things 2 steps down, 3 steps down, 4 steps down? I practice second and third order thinking. So with everything, I'm always thinking beyond the initial thing, right? So a lot of people are just thinking, yes, we got rid of Trump. That's it. I don't like Trump. We got rid of Trump. Thank you. They're not thinking, okay, what's the second order effect of this? What's the third order effect of this? How could this potentially affect others? How could this affect me? How could this affect the internet? How could this affect the economy, the free market, etc., the free market of ideas? They're not thinking beyond that because they're just stuck at the first step. So I think, a lot of it is lack of foresight. And I think a lot of it is also, I think some of it is brainwashing. I also think a lot of it is just emotions. I'm less emotional than most people. I'm a lot less emotional than most people. So I don't really get my emotions caught up in politics. I'm never going to cry over politics. I'm never going to do like somersaults and dancing around politics. Like I have my views. I have my opinions. I have my preferences. But ultimately, I'm working on myself. I'm trying to support you guys. I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to inspire you through my music, through my podcast, through my book, through my coaching. I'm trying to help people. I'm trying to have an impact on the world. Whoever's the prime minister, whoever's the president, mayor, governor, whatever, I just want them to stay out my way. Leave me alone. Right? Make sure I'm paying taxes. So I want defend the borders and, run a decent police force and, fire department, and make sure the street lights stay on and whatever, because I pay all my council taxes, make sure there aren't giant potholes in the road. Apart from that, just leave me alone. I don't ask for a lot from the government. I don't want a lot from the government. Like, just leave me alone. Leave me alone. So that's my personal view. But I think a lot of people have like a different one, right? They demand a lot more, and they have all these expectations never get met, but they still constantly demand them. So maybe those are a few factors right there. Someone asked me where I'm from. I'm from the UK, but I grew up in Saudi Arabia, and I went to an American school for a while. We got one from Riley Bunn, sends $20. Thank you very much. We're seeing almost every issue made into an issue of race and power. This is not how we want to raise our children, nor is it how the world actually works. Are you experiencing this racialization of everything? Only on social media. Only on social, a little bit in real life. But, one thing I think that's better in the UK than the US is that the USA is too obsessed with race. The USA is too obsessed with race, man. It's just such a topic over there in a way that it's less so here in the UK. Even the fact that you guys call yourselves white Americans and black Americans and Asian Americans and African Americans and Jewish Americans, like in the UK, we just say British. I don't say that I'm black British or that I'm African British. People don't say Asian British, white British, like, maybe on a census or something, but people don't use these terms in everyday parlance. And I think that's a good thing, because then people don't think about it. People don't really obsess over it. Like, yeah, we can see what each other look like, but that's all it is. And you're right. Not everything is about race and power. Very few things are about race and power, and race and power are not as interconnected in 2021 as I think many people would like to believe. I think people obsess over this stuff again because they want to. I think a lot of it is an excuse, and a lot of it is a distraction. It's just a distraction. And I think it's great that you don't want to raise your children to see the world that way, because they shouldn't. Whether your children are white or black or mixed race or any other ethnicity, it's not a healthy way to look at the world, to see everything as a game of power, everything as a game of race, especially when race is such a dodgy concept anyway, right? People say gender is a social construct. Like, race is much more of a social construct than gender is, right? Of course, there's biological factors, right? Like, you can obviously look at me and see that my heritage is from Africa. You can obviously see that just by looking at me, right? But that doesn't tell you what I think. It doesn't tell you anything about my character. It doesn't tell you anything about my heart, my personality, my characteristics. It doesn't tell you anything beyond, okay, this is someone of African origin. That's all you would know about me, right? So to jump to any conclusions, good or bad or neutral or whatever, based on that, would be a form of racism. And people shouldn't do that. Just see people as individuals, accept people as individuals, and we can all get on with each other. So, so I'm not really experiencing the racialization of everything. I see it more than I experience it, because there's people always trying to kind of drag me into that hole. But if you refuse, then they can't really pull you into it too hard. And thank you very much for the super chat. That's very generous of you. I appreciate it. Okay, I've got a couple more super chats to get to, and then I'm going to be closing out the live stream. Let me just find them here. This is from Gaspar. Thank you very much. Sends 10 euros. Recently subscribed to your email newsletter. Much thanks for the EP and everything in general. No doubt, man. Much love. I appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe to my newsletter as well. You can do that at teamzuby.com, and you get some free music when you subscribe. So that's dope. Okay, I feel like there's one more super chat that I need to go to. Oh man, one more from John, man. Another 10 Canadian dollars. Thank you so much, man. That's really generous of you. He wrote, British is British. Love you, man. Thank you very much, man. Much love. Yeah, that's it, man. British is British. Human is human. And we are all God's children. I always say it, man. We're all God's children. White, brown, black, yellow, red. I don't care, man. If you're cool, you're my brother. I've got a lyric about that on the new album. So speaking of the new album, I'm going to be recording tomorrow. I have an 8-hour studio session. So I need to save my voice to make sure that I can go hard. So massive thanks to all of you who have tuned in. I hope you have enjoyed the live stream. I will be doing another one. I don't know what day yet, but I'll just post it online. I'll let you guys know. Make sure you are subscribed and you hit that notification bell on YouTube. One last time, remember to check out the Patreon, patreon.com/Zuby Music. Go support your boy. And Massive thanks for you. Massive thanks to you all for tuning in. Stay vigilant, stay blessed, stay healthy, and much love to you all. Hope you have a great day.